first. Yeah. So, David, there you are.
Yep.
I'm gonna appoint you to sit for Vicky, who's not coming.
Okay.
And why don't you come up to the table and we can get started.
I'm gonna need all these maps that I brought them.
Sure. I mean, you can retrieve them later if you want. It's all used. All right, so everybody obviously has taken a look at this. Is there anything you want to add to what you've already?
I think it's pretty simple.
Okay.
It's clear, right? We've got 4 lots, we're dividing them into 2. That's basically
Okay.
it.
So the first thing we have to do is the checklist, and I'll go through that. So, name and address of each abutter by map and lot number. Looks like we have that.
Absolutely.
Next, name and business address of every consultant whose professional seal appeals on any submitted document.
And yep, it's on the bottom, right-hand corner of the plat, with the address and everything of
So we
the
have
surveyor, so yes.
Okay. Provide 10 blue or black. We have all of those.
Yep.
Okay. Site survey map, size per requirements of registry of deeds.
Yep.
Scale no smaller than 100 feet per inch. Okay. Prepared sign certified by a New Hampshire licensed land surveyor.
Stamp here.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay. Complete boundaries and area of entire parcel, North Point, bar scale date, and dates of any revisions.
And the only question I had is, the complete boundary is shown in the smaller,
No,
version, it does
bigger
not show,
On the bigger one.
so I don't know if you consider that the complete, or if you wanna consider waiving, or do you wanna have it something different?
How does the board feel about that?
We have it here, and that's not affecting,
Well, what we have here is the prior.
right, but we have a complete somewhere.
Do we?
Well, that is the complete boundary of all the lots.
Well, you have this map in your files, I'm just gonna big version of it, that has all the boundaries. It's already been filed with the county hundreds of times, I'm sure.
Well, it's that, because the survey plat is what is the requirement.
So you're saying,
Well, that's where I'm asking the board, but the fact that all that area to the south
Is
is
it
really,
affected by this?
is not really affected, and showing it on the main map is not going to give you a
yeah,
better.
seriously, all we're doing is putting.
Yeah, I think
in
it's
3 places.
it's evident what.
That's why we
what-
did this
what-
diagram.
Well, does anybody have a problem with waiving that? Or, okay, so we'll waive that because self-evident. Okay, existing and proposed lot lines, angles and dimensions, lot sizes and square feet or acres and monuments at lot corners, we got that?
Yep.
Location of existing and proposed easements and areas affected by existing and proposed covenants, reservations, and restrictions benefiting or burdening the property.
This one, there is an easement on the large lot, and then where it crosses the street, that's not shown. It
Just
just,
pushing lane?
no, the conservation easement,
Yeah, oh,
That's
okay.
on-
Right.
on here,
50 acres
yeah.
excludes the section up here, 8.6 is not shown.
It was something we did not have on file. I did get a copy today.
Well, can we add that copy to the?
Yep,
So there's a new conservation easement.
yeah, it's done
Well,
in
it's 3 years
It's-
old.
2015 is when it was.
Do you have that here?
Actually, it's on my desk, let me go grab
Upper
it.
Valley Land Trust?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, all right,
So
so
it excludes 8 acres, you said?
8.6, plus or minus.
8.6
This little-
acres of
This little
the,
section here, which
Yeah.
I'll draw on, basically, this little area here. The fields, all these fields are in Upper Valley Land Trust.
so could you pass that around when you're putting it
No,
on?
that's our land too. It's just,
I mean, it's not
excluded from the Upper Valley Land Trust conservation easement.
Oh, that's this piece.
That's the exclusion, that weird little,
Okay.
Panhandle.
It's
Yeah.
right here.
well,
The
yeah.
little L
I
is
just
a,
drew a black line on there.
okay, so that's
See that
not,
wooded
that's
area?
not conserved.
That's correct. So there's 50,
Which is
all
not-
those fields are
This
conserved.
is, this is not, where the wooded area is not conserved.
Dog's leg.
Yeah,
Yeah, kind of strange.
But everything else is on.
And that's,
Including this.
that's why you have this driveway. This driveway.
Yeah, get back
accesses-
up there, right. So
accesses
we
it.
also, just so you know, on that map, here, let me just draw another line for you. The Upper Valley Land Trust had drawn a line like this for a driveway. I went to the Land Trust and Natural Resources Conservation Service and whatever the New Hampshire version of that is, and we got approval for moving the driveway, because it would have subtended the field and crossed wetlands. They just drew it on a piece of paper. They didn't actually physically go out there and look at it. And this way, the driveway is not visible. If you drive out there, you won't see
Yeah,
anybody, you can go out there and walk it, hike it, right,
You
whatever.
have-
The top sheet is the original, and then the bottom one is the amended that shows the actual.
So the driveway now,
The driveway, I have
Always.
permits for the driveway
Yeah.
with the state. It's an existing driveway that was here
yeah,
for these two lots. It was a shared driveway.
okay.
However, I have a permit for that, but that's moved now. And then this goes up here and then it's out there.
Oh, it goes.
You can't see it, we put a
Follows the
berm,
Property line.
we put a berm along here,
And
so.
that preserved the field.
Yes, exactly. Well, they drew the line right through the wetland.
Dave, can you explain this map
Sure.
to us?
Let me just come over there.
It took me a while to look at it doesn't show the entire parcel.
You know, I submitted the entire book when we got that letter on the conservation land.
The current use letter?
Yeah,
Yeah.
which, that is what, this area, is that what you're asking?
No, I'm just asking to explain the distinctions between these two maps.
Those are soil, that one's a soil map.
Well, actually, I can,
All right, let's all convene here.
He's got a black and white version of a colored map there.
this is the original conservation map. This is the boundary right here of the easement. It includes the two pieces on the west side of Route 10. This is the amended, where he's taken out the driveway access, which is right here,
Okay,
and moved it up here. So this is just showing the updated. It does not show the full parcel. The full parcel continues back up in here.
all right.
So the driveway goes down, once everything here.
Yeah, past that little red cape, house.
It comes in right around where just below where it says 10.
All right, well, shouldn't we
Does that
have,
make sense to you?
shouldn't we have this shown? Or do we wanna have this shown, on the map, where the.
It is on the map.
It is?
No, the easement itself is what,
Do we want the easement shown on the map? Yeah. All right, so,
I can give you the Upper Valley Land Trust
Yeah.
book in electronic form if you'd like. It has dozens of maps. I think it'll answer your question.
well, it's not so much a question as a requirement, and
So what's the requirement?
that the location of existing and proposed easements affected by covenants, reservations, and restrictions benefiting and burdening the property should be shown. So it would be nice if that were shown.
Yeah, just show it's not an easement.
Well, then what you're asking for is this bigger map with the 8.2 to 8.6 acres excluded.
Yeah, however you would, whatever's the most convenient way to do it, just so that it's on there to fulfill the
On
requirement.
this page,
If you can do it on there.
Well, I think
Which-
if you put it in the inset,
Yeah,
okay, replace this inset, but would you like that in color
No,
or black?
just shaded.
just shade the area that's,
All we need to do is draw those lines,
right,
that's it.
yeah,
That answers your question. I can have Tom
that would be fine,
reprint this.
that would be great,
He's got that,
yeah, that's all.
yeah, okay.
Okay, so,
Label it not an easement or whatever.
Excluded, I think, is that what they said, Upper Valley Land Trust?
however you would wanna phrase it, just so we
just
have that on
add the
record.
easement area
Yeah, just the easement area,
or
okay,
into the-
got it. We have to come back?
I think we'll set that as a condition, and
Yeah,
then
we'll just
that'll be
set it
on the
as a
final
condition.
plat that has to be signed.
Okay, all right, I can have that done.
All right. Location of existing and proposed utilities, wells, septic, blah, 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 blah. You got that?
The only thing that's on there is the drive, that, on that, small portion, there's no other,
I mean, is there anything we need, he's not adding anything. Do we need anything else on there?
that's up to the board. That's-
Well, board, what do you think?
As far as.
The locations of existing proposed utilities, wells, septic systems, buildings, drives, parking areas, storm water drainage lines, drainage structures, and drainage ways.
We're not
I
building,
don't, yeah, I don't think so, because he's not building it.
We're
And the
not-
driveway show.
Yeah, I mean, the town has a record of where those things are.
At the moment, no, because the driveway has not been approved by the town. You have the state approval for it, but there's been no
we
permit.
haven't, we're not building, so
Well,
we didn't go
but
to the
there
next step.
isn't, is this, existing and proposed, proposed? All right, well, what is the board's pleasure here?
So, Dave, let me ask you a question. The driveway hasn't been approved? I mean,
No permits have been issued for it. It's not a driveway, it does not go to a residence. It's an access way which are allowed under the ordinance.
okay, so that, I was just curious how
Yeah.
it was, that's where you didn't
I
say
talked to
that.
Dave.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, you didn't say that, so I'm like, wait a minute, what
But
am I
when
doing?
you,
All right, but so let's determine,
So it's an access
whether we
road.
want.
Let me just clear the air.
Yeah.
Our plan was to sell our house,
Yeah.
build a smaller house down here, okay? So we prepared the site, now my wife wants to move, so I have a road to nowhere.
All right,
Any
But-
any
but-
one of you can go down there, the green gate is not locked, there's a water tank for the fire trucks there.
this isn't about you, this is about
No, I understand
having
that.
records for
If you need to
future.
walk
This is-
around or whatever,
This
go
is
ahead.
an ongoing, the property will be conveyed from person to person,
Yeah,
so.
I hope so.
So this big lot that you now, you're gonna cut this off, and this
Yes.
big lot is essentially, I don't know what percentage conserved, but essentially most of
50
it.
acres out of 62.92.
Except that conservation easement, does it include this?
No, because this is a separate piece of property.
Right. But, okay, so I'm just looking at what's gonna be net when we're done here.
Okay, but before we get to that, I'd like to get this question answered by the board, which is, how does the board feel about, it says location of existing and proposed utilities, well, septic, building, drives, parking area, store. He has, I mean, the driveway is shown.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
why would we need anything
I
else?
don't think he did.
By the existence of everything else, there isn't anything, so nothing to
Yeah,
show.
so,
It's a
all
great
right,
view of Smart's Mountain from you.
can you show that?
Go ahead.
Okay, so we're gonna waive, or do we have everything?
I think you have everything,
Okay.
I'd say yes.
Okay, so that's a yes. Location of zoning district boundaries and area of each lot, well, this is all rural, isn't it?
It's all rural and there is a note on the plat.
Okay. And the name and address of each abutter and fee or an easement, and the name and address of any professional helping with the plan,
Yep, those are,
on there?
yep.
Okay. And we're making progress. Final plat within 60 days from the plan, phase from planning board approval, provide 2 paper copies.
And that'll have to come with the approval.
So I'll just put to come.
Yep.
Title matters, provide, so these are all,
So we have the most recent deed.
okay. All present or proposed easements, et cetera?
I now have, right here,
Okay.
copies. I do need those maps back, because those are.
Okay, part of the record, okay.
You should note that this is also under conservation easement.
No, it is not.
Yes, it is. Under the subdivision easement that was issued for the subdivision. The Timmy.
Yes, that easement, there is a,
So when this was, what's the name on there? Estes,
Yeah, Rusty and Noreen.
when the Estes did a subdivision.
In
which
89.
created that
Hey, can
lot.
I stop this for a second? We're only here for a lot line adjustment.
Yeah, okay. So this is pertinent in what way?
Well, I just want, when you just said, are there easements available? Do we have all?
Okay.
I'm just making,
Adding it to the record.
absolutely.
Okay, so add that to the record. Okay.
I'm not sure I know what that is.
there was a,
But it
Yeah,
had to
well,
have been
Rusty,
listed when they built the
Rusty,
homes, correct?
You looked into it, so what is the story with it?
The town is looking into these conservation easements right now.
We have not put this under conservation
It was there
easement,
before you
however,
bought it.
but we are not receiving a benefit for that.
Yes.
So I'm unaware of this.
Well,
I think it's an error. Because to build the homes, they had to take it out, correct?
no, to build the homes, they had to put the conservation easement there. Maybe Tim, you were on the board, you can explain.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think
What year was it?
89.
89. Good luck.
Yeah, it's possible that when they built, they had to put some of the land in conservation easement
That's, the whole development,
or so.
the whole development, barring all the house sites, in order to limit the development, so that only one home could be built on any of these lots.
Right. Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but that's certainly possible, yeah.
Every lot, the rest of all the lots are under a conservation easement.
All right, so,
And so this is the only reason so one of the things is, you should be aware of, because as a conservation easement, if your objective here is adding this, I don't know what the objective is, but if it's to add more acreage to this in order to qualify for current use,
Yes,
it will not do that,
why not?
because this is in conservation easement. So these lots are not
Can
totally.
you, how can you demonstrate that to me? I've never seen any documentation.
Yes, yeah.
Hmm?
I'm sure it's in easement. If it's in easement. Easement wouldn't affect.
Where's the
size of
language?
lot.
I plan
Well,
I have time to read
I
it.
know, exactly, I'll share that with you, but I had to pull that.
You need
So-
10
so-
acres
so
for
Rusty-
current use.
explain, because you could have land in conservation use and add it and still qualify, right?
So section 7(9), this is where we have to, this is what we're looking into.
You're looking into,
Well, we have to correct,
because
Issues.
I mean, in terms of what we're doing here tonight, this seems like a sidebar.
well, no.
Yes, I think it is. This seems to be a personal issue of Mr. Keith's. And
Yeah, I just
don't
wanna
have
make
absolutely
sure
what I
that
do.
if this is something
I
you're
just-
looking into, that we're not driving the discussion based on something that's being currently investigated. Because unless it's established as law,
It is.
then why are you looking into it, if it's established as law? Because we had this problem with your current use letter, which turned out not to be accurate. So I don't wanna go down this road, based on an assumption.
Can I get a copy of this?
Of course. My take
Can I
on
just
this.
ask a question
Yeah.
here? So, when Rusty and Noreen bought this land, could it be that it was raw land? They put it in a conservation easement as they prepared to do something else with it?
No.
Is that not what happened?
Let me just.
So let me read, let me read
Excuse
this to you.
me for a minute. Let me just frame this from my point of view. we're really talking about two different things. You're raising the issue about whether he qualifies for current, he could qualify for current use, right?
He just stated to me that one of his motivations
Right.
in creating this
And-
law was
and
to do
you're
that. And
so
I'm
that-
clarifying for him that that's
So,
not
so
gonna be the case.
Rusty is telling you that he has some doubts about that, but in terms of your business before the board, we have nothing to do with current use. So we can go ahead with this, and however that works out is
I
between,
just want you to be aware.
Well, the way I read the law is, here we have 14.79 acres, we're putting aside 2 acres, so it's going
I
to be
understand,
that.
and, I
It's
mean,
pretty easy math.
we are not the ruling body on this, we're here for your
No,
merger.
I'm not
And
arguing.
I'll get you, I'll give you all.
I'd like the facts, however, I think that's a state issue.
Yeah, I believe.
And I was here at that meeting where the state guy came up and
Yeah,
made his case.
but we're not gonna,
This issue
Open that
was
can of
not addressed at that meeting.
okay, Rusty, you'll handle that in a separate venue. All right, so,
Regardless, I mean, if there is a conservation easement on this piece, we need to show it on the map.
yeah, so,
But let me ask
so,
the question,
Yeah.
how can you have a conservation easement on a residential property?
I have no idea,
I think this is a mistake.
I have no, I don't know, I haven't read it, I don't know what it is, but it's not relevant to what we're doing with you.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I figured, I didn't wanna go down that path today,
well,
'cause that's not my issue.
yeah, I don't think it's the planning board's issue either.
And excuse me for saying this, we've gone to great expense to have the surveyor come out and do all this work. And, you know, the issue is a lot line adjustment.
That's exactly the
Let's just stay
issue.
with the,
So that's what we're gonna do.
but I would like a copy of this monkey wrench that I've been handed.
You can ask Rusty for
Can I
that.
get a copy? Can I have this copy? Do you have another
I
one?
don't, but
You know, don't wave it around like Joe, whatever McCarthy, and, you know, make an issue of something when it's not relevant. It's irritating.
we'll discuss it, it is relevant. And
No,
this
you have a
board-
personal issue here. My recommendation to you is run for state representative and take that approach.
If you feel that there's a personal issue, you can ask Rusty to recuse himself. Other
No,
than,
no, I mean, it's fine, understand what he's doing,
yeah,
but this is a state law.
okay, let's get this merger done so
Yes.
that you can move on from this.
But if he's telling me that if we do this, and we add this extra useless steep land that you can't build upon, that will never be built upon, should be qualified for current use. He's telling me I can't get it,
That's what he's telling you.
but how does that,
You'll have to ask him.
Yeah,
I mean, it's news to me.
are you a lawyer?
I'm simply, this is the RSA, and it simply states, and this is something.
Read it out loud for everybody.
The land use change tax 79A7B, when land is required to remain undeveloped to satisfy density, setback, or other local, state, or federal requirements as part of an approval of a plan of continuous development area, such land shall be considered changed in use which does not qualify for a current use assessment. So therefore, this.
Interpret.
Well, this land was conserved as a requirement of the subdivision. Therefore, it does not qualify for current use assessment.
So it's a conservation easement?
This
Does that
is-
qualify as a current use? I'm sorry,
So,
but
so you're okay, you know what? We're gonna get sidetracked into the discussion about this. Do you wanna go ahead with the merger? Or do you wanna,
well, now I need to know,
so would you rather, put this on hold until you're certain?
maybe we should finish this so he doesn't have to come back.
Yeah, we could, let's finish the,
It's a pertinent question.
he says it's under current. Is it? It's a conservation easement. Is it?
Who holds it, I wonder, who holds the easement?
It's right here, it's written right here, I don't know exactly.
Well, what's it say? You know, we don't have time to sit here and read this word for word.
I'm not sure, it's not the Upper Valley Land
I
Trust.
mean, it would have been
Around.
nice if you could have supplied this to Mr. Rust before the meeting.
Why are you doing this? What is your
I'm
motivation?
sorry, sir, you have a surveyor, your surveyor should tell you this. You own this land, this exists on your property. I'm only pulling the records that exist.
This is when the Estes owned the property, and they sold the property.
They subdivided it, and as a condition of the subdivision, they produced a conservation easement on this land. That's how it was done. And then they sold it, and homes were built on the lots that were available, so this exists. It's not, I didn't
So
say
what
anything.
is your point?
I just want you to be aware, if you think that this is gonna go.
It sounds to me like Rusty's point of view is that he feels you won't qualify for current use by adding the land. Is that correct? Is that, am I saying it correctly?
I would say, I asked the question,
Okay,
is
so
that the
that
motivation?
tells you what he's saying.
So how do we know if this is still in place? Or not?
I don't even know what this is.
Yeah, I
Unfortunately, I
just
can't
saw it
remember.
for the
Yeah.
first time today.
It was 29 years ago, and I can't remember.
And it's
Sorry.
passed through several hands,
Yeah.
I
You know,
really
But
don't know.
at the time, I can't remember.
title searches. And now this comes rising up from the past. What is this?
I would-
The conservation easements are mapped right on the tax map.
Yeah, they are, but like I said, I don't know the details of that one,
I
so I'm
think
not.
the thing to do would be to find out who holds the easement and then talk to them, probably. You know, maybe the first step.
Who that was granted to?
Right, who holds the easement?
And that,
The
and
state,
that-
the town?
that
I
may
don't
have
know.
changed.
Yeah, and then talk to them and see where it stands.
That may have changed. All I'm simply doing is alerting you that we were asked here to show conservation easements as part of our requirements. This is a conservation easement that applies to this lot. It does not apply to these two
So
lots.
does this cover the whole
Yes.
development?
Yes.
Okay.
All your neighbors, everybody's got that conservation easement on it.
Why would it not apply to those other two lots, because that was all part of the original subdivision?
It was?
Yes, these two, and then across the road, there's even more.
But they're not. I don't know.
That's why I don't know the details of that.
Maybe there was never a home.
And what, you said that the RSA you read had to do with the land change?
So it just stipulates that land that is set aside
Yeah.
for density purposes or other restrictions, local restrictions, which I must assume was part of our planning and zoning ordinance at the time, that we required a conservation easement on this subdivision. And in doing such, it should have eliminated that from current use assessment. And his property has never really been subject to that because it's not 10 acres more, so he didn't have current use on his land.
But Rusty, there's a lot of land that's in conservation easement and also has current use, under current use, right? So why?
But the reason for the conservation easement was not to satisfy a subdivision. If it was, then it doesn't get current use. That's what the
Well,
law
there's
says.
50 acres that, you know, we work with David Roby and the Upper Valley Land Trust, and all these entities, all the way up to the US government, is a bona fide conservation easement.
Yeah.
And it is in current use, obviously, it's
Yeah.
just hayfields.
Yes, I'm not, that was not part of the
So what is the
subdivision.
point?
Yeah, that was not, this lot, the big lot, was not part of the subdivision.
Yes, I know that.
So this lot that I'm pointing out to you was.
So,
It doesn't qualify for current use. So therefore, adding this little bit that you're
well,
adding to.
back up now, we're saying Upper Valley Land Trust, conservation easement, qualifies for current use.
It's a separate lot. I'm talking about
I'm
the
using
lot
the
of your
same
home.
logic here, I'm
Yeah.
using your logic.
No, but you're missing one point. One point is that this particular lot, okay, was a lot created by a subdivision. And a requirement of the subdivision was the conservation easement. That disqualifies,
Meaning,
that disqualifies that lot.
where's that say, where's that in the law?
I just read it to you.
I'm not a lawyer, and neither are you.
Okay,
Yeah, I think-
we're
We're
gonna
not
end
gonna
up going
debate the
around
legal
in
aspect.
circles here. I think what
Well,
you,
this is very disturbing.
I'm sure it is. I think what you might wanna consider and advise us about is, given that you've just been told about this, Whether you want to go ahead with the merger right now, or do you wanna wait, or?
Well, what do we have to do, say contingent upon this
It's up to you.
document?
I have no idea.
No, I'm just,
I'm in the same position you are.
I don't know what
really
the process
I
is,
don't-
okay, I've never done this
The
before.
process is, we can approve your merger
Yes,
tonight, assuming it, you know, it
add
looks.
the lines,
Right,
yes.
right.
Or if you would wanna wait to get advice, we can wait.
We can always undo it.
It's up to you.
Yeah, I would recommend having us finish it, and then you want
Let's
to
go
come back
through
if
with
you
this
wanna
and we'll
do it.
figure out what this
Okay.
means, you know.
Okay.
Cause that's really a side issue to what we're doing here.
Yeah, I don't even know what this is, so I mean, I'm
Okay, so
looking at it.
I think they do, I think if it were me, I'd talk to an attorney
Yeah.
who knows that law, and
Yeah.
see what they say.
I think you
But
need.
this is another Lyme wild goose chase.
Well, unfortunately, you're the goose. So, if I were the goose, I would get a lawyer to advise me.
Just interpret that, yes.
This is crazy. I'm
Um,
sorry.
yeah,
But if we finish this tonight, then you want to come back, and if you wanna go ahead and anytime you wanna do it, you can just do it.
and if you wanna, as a
I mean,
corrective.
you all understand, we
Of-
just wanna
of
change some
course, of
lines,
course.
that's all.
All right.
And, so if he goes ahead and he gets the approval, it's not a major thing if he wants to come back and undo it.
No, it's not. You can
Okay,
come back
so,
and-
so that
So
will be,
let's do what we're gonna
Okay.
do,
So-
we'll figure this out, but I need a copy to read this.
and,
We do that now?
the,
Is there a machine here?
yeah, let's just forge ahead and then we'll
I'm
deal with
sorry,
it.
this is a little bit of a monkey wrench, I
I'm
was
sure
not
it is.
expecting.
But you've decided to go ahead with this, so let's get this done.
Yeah,
So, we're adding all of the conservation easements to be shown. Dimensional conformance, you must prove that you are not making any conforming lot non-conforming or any non-conforming lot less conforming.
I've looked through them and I feel that they are staying conforming. The only issue I found is that, and let me grab the zoning because it's a very convoluted, section 524A.
Yeah, I looked at that too, and I think all we have to do is add that as a finding.
And
That's
so,
to-
anyway, 524A leaves lots with conservation easements executed after the adoption of the zoning ordinance, which the large lot.
larger,
Lot was executed after the zoning ordinance. The entire lot, including the portion protected by the conservation easement, may be used to calculate, in the calculation of dimensional characteristics required for the development of only the reserved rights, and not any, basically saying, you can use the area of the conservation easement to figure out how big a house you can build. You know, we base the dimensional controls of buildings based off of the lot size. So you can use the area of the lot.
if we were to build a house.
Right, if you were to build the house, you will be able to use the area within the conservation easement to
To
calculate,
add to,
calculate how big a building.
even though, the 8.2 to 8.6 is excluded.
Or what will happen is, not any land subsequently annexed to the lot. So, because there's a conservation easement on the
The
land,
censored chunk.
right,
Yes.
cannot be used.
Really?
Yeah, to.
Not that I was intending to do
Um,
that.
All right, so
After looking at the lot, I believe that the lot will max out at the largest amount of footprint and lot coverage that you can have no matter
Okay.
what.
So
So
just-
it's kind of a moot point, but I would like to have it just noted in
Yeah,
the decision.
just for the record, it should be noted in the decision.
Yeah, I don't think it
So,
is.
so, since we're on that topic, this section here is, what is it? 4.78 acres, attached to 62.92 of 8 is the number. It has no encumbrances on it, except,
No, that doesn't,
this one doesn't, just where the house is, that's what you're saying.
this lot.
This one,
Yep.
okay.
Okay.
It has no encumbrances on
Okay.
it. Could somebody put a little barn here for a tractor? To
Um,
allow the driveway to have.
In
it
terms of,
available?
if it was an agricultural structure, I
Yeah.
would say,
A shed for
very
a
likely.
tractor.
yeah.
I think it may need zoning board approval just because it's ag soils, but I don't.
This is ledge, definitely
ledge,
ledge.
yeah, well, that's, you know, it's still,
It's-
if it's mapped as
the-
soils, I unfortunately have to, you know.
Okay, I had Mr. Shower take drillings up there.
That-
Yeah,
It's
It could be
rock.
shown that it's rock,
It's-
and
yeah.
it's-
that's something the zoning board could take into account.
Agricultural structures get a
It
pretty,
would truly be just for a tractor to
Yeah.
plow the driveway.
Yeah, well, actually, I would say,
Mowed the grass a couple times.
for
Maybe.
clarification, I do get a lot of people say, I'm gonna build an agricultural
no,
structure.
you have,
and-
no,
and
it
yes,
has to be an
I have to look at it, is
Yeah.
the lot being used for agriculture?
It has to be
And-
a bona fide.
Right. So a shed for a tractor to plow does not really
Is not the
qualify,
same.
because you're not using the
Oh, okay,
lot
I
for
get
it.
it, so we need to mow a little.
Well, it has to be used.
No,
you know,
no, it's gotta be legitimate.
Yeah, but I still think that there's no reason why a shed could not
Okay,
be.
I just-
yeah.
But this
you
is
know,
it's
another-
4 acres, right? What's our minimum acreage for
No,
this
it
lot?
adds to the other.
No, I'm
It
just
adds to
saying,
the other.
3 acres.
so you have 3 acre zoning, whoever buys this could actually build a house on that lot.
They'd have to subdivide it.
No.
and-
It's too, it's wet, very wet.
Well, okay, but that's other restriction, I'm just saying
It's
from a
wet,
map.
I think it's wetland.
Okay.
All right, regardless, we have dimensional conformance.
Correct.
Waivers, the board may waive the requirement of perimeter survey of the entire parcel. Do we have a perimeter,
No, we don't have a survey of the
do we
entire.
need, do we need that?
My opinion is that the only area affected is this upper corner, and having a survey, having the whole thing surveyed is not going to give you any extra information that's pertinent
Okay.
to.
It has been surveyed when we,
Yeah,
purchased it from Mr. Roby
right,
and Valley Trust, paid
right.
for
So
it. We have it.
are people comfortable with waiving that requirement?
Yes.
Everybody's, okay, it's just not necessary. All right, so it looks to me like we have a complete checklist with the condition that the easements will be added to the map.
And I have to have the surveyor put in the lines for that excluded area.
Right.
Where, yeah, that's the easements. So I'd like to make a motion that the application is complete with the noted condition. I have a second. All those in favor?
I have one question. If you look at the maps, there's a little, like, there's a triangle missing right here
No,
that's included, so what's, right, there's a little triangle out of here, which would be this corner.
oh, I see what happened,
So,
yeah.
did it get,
It's a weird,
it's
it's
like,
a
there's
very
like, there
weird
should be a
little
line
thing.
across here.
No, this is,
I think this is incorrect. I think that needs to be.
oh, yeah,
All right, so that's gotta be
okay.
corrected.
I think you're right.
Good catch, Eric.
Look on this
Yeah,
one,
okay.
yeah. No,
Well, that one's hard.
So if it's,
I think it's one of these hash marks that looks like it's a,
Yeah, I mean,
that's the problem.
Well, it
Okay.
should be accurate, is whichever way it.
so I think you're,
Something goofy going on there.
the little one looks more correct than the big one.
Question.
All right, so that's, ask your person
Yeah,
to
right.
correct that. All right, so add that to the condition.
That is weird.
Yeah.
Good eye.
Yeah, very good eye. Correct. Error, what's the lot number?
This one's 60.3.
Is that the one in question?
60.3, and up here, it's this little piece that's not,
And is that 60.3?
well, this is 60.3. We're talking about this little triangle
Okay,
right here,
so
which
error at,
is 55.
at corner of 3 lots of convergence of 3 lots.
This actually is.
Does that convey what we're saying?
Yeah, I'll make sure.
See, I think that's actually Kevin's property right there.
Oh, with the
Yeah.
little corner.
Well, let's
We'll
merge
figure
his,
that out.
let's merge his property here.
That's a good idea, I like this.
He'll be delighted.
Good thing he's not here.
All right, so that has to be cleared up. So that's a condition as well. You got that in, just under
Yeah.
wire, are you saving that to the end? All right, with those 2 conditions, do I have a motion? Well, I made the motion. Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Right.
All those opposed? All right.
Can I
So,
ask a question? Are you
Of
done
course.
with your formal stuff?
well, we're now gonna go on to the actual merger
Oh,
approval.
there's more?
Yeah,
There's-
no,
this
okay,
is just
sorry.
going through
There's-
making
sorry.
sure that they
That
received all the
you had
information
the
that they
application complete.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think, I looked over this and it seemed pretty straightforward to me. Do people have questions about this?
Yeah, seems to simplify.
Yeah, if anything, it makes things simpler. Everybody is satisfied? I'll take that as a yes, so,
We're, we saw it, but the conservation map shows the 8 acres that's reserved.
Yes.
So that's the map that's gonna show that. We don't have that on anything. That's
we asked for that to be
That's
shown.
going to be a condition of the.
This is
yeah.
excluded.
The
It's
approval.
excluded, right?
excluded.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is going
Shown on
to
that.
show on that, and then
This little section.
we will have to resolve.
Yeah, that's my
these-
question. How do I resolve it? What do I do?
I think you, I would get legal advice.
Right. I'll give you everything that we're working on.
I'd like to see that
Yeah,
because,
absolutely.
so are you guys,
It's not hiding
are you
anything.
having a meeting tomorrow here or? Can I come down tomorrow and get a copy of that?
Or maybe David.
What
can
day-
take one right
you
now.
probably get one.
If you give it to me right now, I just,
Yeah, I'd like to study this.
Yeah, definitely.
I can,
We can get that in our
And
title
Rusty,
search.
why don't you give him
Yeah, see,
the,
that should've
Deeds
come
or
up in-
anything.
That should have come up in the title search.
Rusty, why don't you give him the RSA also, so that he has,
Well, yeah. You can look at the RSA, it's.
That's online, right? What's-
79A,
Yeah, I read that a few times.
7, and it's B.
D, section D.
Section B as in boy,
B.
sorry. So this is actually the whole.
Where did you find that? In county records or?
So this came up because of your neighbor. And so,
which neighbor?
our selectmen,
Oh,
so when we went over the whole conservation easement issues, you got the letter too, and I was like, oh, I didn't know you had a conservation easement, I didn't know it.
Who got the letter?
Kevin.
You mean the current use letter?
Yeah. The conservation, it wasn't a current use letter, it was a conservation.
It's known
easement
as the
letter.
current use letter, Rusty,
Yeah.
in case
Should've-
in case you haven't
should've
heard.
come-
Well, when I got the letter, I thought you were asking about our conservation easement land. It wasn't clear what it was for, so
Well, no,
I
because-
immediately
Yeah,
stepped into action, spent 6 hours making copies, and I produced a binder, which you may have seen, with everything you requested, for nothing.
no, well, okay, but.
Yeah,
We won't-
but
we
it
don't
should
move
have,
on.
it should have shown.
No, you
up
wasted
on the
6
title
hours
search.
of my life
No.
on that. Yes, you did.
Yeah, there were several people who did it.
I had no ink in my printer, I had to go to the
Yeah,
Staples.
there
This
were a
was
lot
okay, and then
of, there were a lot of
what?
people who were very unhappy about that.
I was happy to supply the information, I didn't understand the motivation.
But it seems like that easement should have turned up on a title search for sure.
Well, you know,
It's-
when we
it's
first
interesting.
moved here, I wasn't thinking about things like this.
Yeah, but I mean, somebody should have picked it up, some attorney should have picked it up. on a title search. But I would just talk to somebody that knows.
But I know this isn't your, maybe it is. Let's just say we did build a house down there. We come back to the planning commission, or board, whatever you wanna call
Call
it.
us what you will.
We say, we wanna take this out of current use, okay, take it out of the current use, pay the fine, whatever that number is, a percentage of the house.
10%.
10%.
And now it's a building site, it's not,
If you qualified under all the
Yeah.
requirements, then you have a building site.
right, so I just understand why that didn't happen with all our houses up there. It did.
It did.
So that was paid, when the houses were built by Petroncelli's in our case.
Okay. I don't
No,
have.
I
it.
don't think Rusty did.
That law was in
Maureen
place
and Rusty paid.
You know, that
Maybe
was,
take it out.
I don't
It
have
wasn't-
any insight into what,
No, it wasn't in, no,
that
there
was,
wasn't.
that
a-
was specific to that development.
It
I
might
have
not have been
no
in
idea
current
what
Yeah,
they
I don't,
did
it
there.
might not, yeah, I can't remember.
If it was in current use, that would have triggered a land use change tax. But I don't know that, I have
Yeah,
to look at the
I
records.
can't
But if it was a
Exactly.
conservation easement, wouldn't it therefore also have been in current use since it was woodland?
It can't be in current use if it's a requirement of the subdivision. can't, no matter how much open space land is required in a subdivision.
I think you're not gonna get anywhere having this discussion, you need to
I
get.
don't wanna waste your time.
No, but for your sake, you're gonna need, legal advice.
Yeah, someone who's familiar with the state law and stuff, yeah. So an attorney that's familiar with the RSA and all that, you know.
I just understand why they would have put it in the conservation easement when they were planning to sell it and subdivide it.
Well, no, see, I think what might have happened, I wish I could remember, but I can't. But when they wanted to do this subdivision or put in all the houses, there was a requirement that the land, they cited the houses were put in a specific spot, and then some of the other land had to be put in conservation easement, at the time.
And I can add, that's not unique to Lyme in any form or function, it happens all
Right, it
over the
happens
country,
everywhere, yeah.
every place, you know, as a part of a real estate development, the local
Right.
municipalities will say, well, you can do it, except you gotta put this
Right.
land away.
See, now, David, like in our zoning, if somebody wants to build on agricultural soil, or they have to build on agricultural soil because they don't have any other place, then there's a requirement to put a certain amount of the land in the easement, of the rest of the land. So it might have been.
Yeah, except that's really potentially
little
very
different.
different, because this sounds like it may have been connected to the land where with those things, if zoning went away, those easements go away.
That's right.
So
that's right.
you really need a lawyer. It's, number one, because I have no idea what's in there, and I only went to law school for a half hour, so you probably don't want my advice.
I was accepted to law school.
Well, you didn't even
I got
go for the
an
half
MBA
hour?
instead.
You didn't go
No,
for the half
no.
So I'm way ahead of you
I
there.
don't wanna argue. All my friends who are lawyers say I made the right choice.
Yeah, probably.
Well, I don't think
So we're done.
No, we
No, we're
actually
not.
have to vote on this, because we didn't, so we don't need, we can tell David we voted, but while he's doing that, why don't we go ahead and, I think we started the motion, we didn't actually complete it, did we?
We'll do it again.
Let's make sure, does anybody recall whether we finished the motion?
I don't think you did.
I don't think we did. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the merger,
Subject to the
subject to the conditions. So do we have a second? All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, so you are approved with the conditions that were established.
It's just three
Until
items.
David comes back and tells me that we did that wrong, we have to redo it. But until then, you are approved.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so you won't have to come back.
So you won't have to come back, and
But
you
we still need
can,
to resolve this.
you need to resolve that
conservation.
issue, and if for any reason you decide you don't wanna go ahead with that merger, just tell David, and that'll be a
Okay,
quick,
well, thank you very much.
yeah.
Elucidating.
Yeah,
I was confused.
well, let's just make sure, first of all, you want a copy?
Yes,
of
I
that?
do. I gotta read that.
And we want David to tell me what mistake I made, so.
I'm just wondering if there's anything subsequent to that, you know, other deeds and things filed that obviated it or removed it.
I don't know, somebody should be able to research that.
Yeah.
When you do a deeds search, you should find it.
Yeah, I'm retired, I can go out and read my stuff.
Right.
If you had to get title insurance, they were the ones responsible for it.
Yeah,
not us.
okay.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
Surprise.
that's a,
Yeah, that's what you don't want to happen.
Yeah, you know the attorney who did the title search?
I have his name on some documents, I can't think of it right now.
It'd be interesting to see what he's.
So are you the third owner or the second owner, or?
Well, it'll be Estes, Petrocelli, Steffi, us.
Okay,
He's a third.
so the third owner. and
Of the
this is-
house.
And this is kind of, I mean, this is what happens, this is a document that's filed in perpetuity. You know, so it's like,
The
whoa.
lawyer screwed, maybe the lawyer screwed up. He shouldn't, but maybe they did.
Right,
I don't know.
but like you, I will tell you, Kevin was equally as surprised. so he doesn't know either.
But that makes me think, what about all the other residents up there,
Thank you,
they must have
David.
got the letter, right?
So did, Rusty, did the other residents pay a penalty?
The penalty was paid, well, I mean, we don't even, first of all, there would be no penalty if there was no current use in place at the time of the subdivision.
Right, and
So
I
I
can't-
don't know if there
But
was.
I would assume that land was most likely all in current use.
Well, so many years ago, like 29 years ago.
Right.
Maybe not.
When did the current use come
has
through
been
the
in
New
for-
Hampshire?
Oh, for 45 years.
45
I mean,
years.
back then, not as many people were.
Oh, I'd be really surprised.
But, yeah, I don't know.
So if there was, then the Estes would have paid the land use change tax because they created the subdivision.
Right.
And as soon as they broke ground on the subdivision, no matter what piece of it or part, wherever it was, that triggered the land use change tax. Okay, so that would have been paid. to them.
So,
In theory.
yeah,
In theory.
yeah, I would say in theory.
Paid to the town, I
But
shouldn't
that,
say.
you know, when we had, I mean, where did all the money come from that we discussed? I mean, I don't know the history of all the land use change tax money the town has received over the years, but it was used, there was a lot of it, back then. It was, you know, it was used to do different things in town.
Yeah, because there was
And
more
now there's
development.
$200,000 in the conservation fund because of land use change tax. So, you know, it's a significant number.
You know, I'm not discussing the number, I'm discussing the process.
Right. And so somewhere
The
along the
number is a
line,
totally
that
different issue.
But
It's
these-
nothing to do with this.
yeah.
I just wonder how many other
So-
residents.
All right, David, while you were away, we approved the merger with the conditions noted.
Okay, who?
Eric,
I made the motion, who
Eric
was that?
seconded.
Eric was the motion that passed unanimously.
So there's three things. You could put the lines on the little.
You need to show where all the easements are.
Yeah.
However you do that, you can shade
Fix the
it,
funny corner.
Funny corner.
add, yeah, fix the funny corner. Is that,
There was one
No, there was-
thing
That's the technical term.
Well, there's one other, if you look on page 2 of the checklist, typically, since it's not gonna have a deed, because at the moment, you're keeping all the land,
Right.
and you're not selling, in the past, the board has had the text, under the title matters under B, so the grantees by virtue of acceptance of this deed to
Right,
read,
right.
that is put on the plat also.
right. So let's add that. I would like to make a motion to add to our approval that 3B in the, how is it referred to as 3B, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That 3B be added to the condition.
So it goes in the text at the bottom, right?
Or it just goes on the plat itself somewhere.
Okay,
somewhere.
can I come by tomorrow and get that language?
Yeah, what I can do is, it'd be probably easier if I just grab it and email it to you, and that way you have it
So-
electronically and can.
Perfect.
So we need to vote on that, so I'll make a motion to add that to the approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, so it passes. You are done, sir.
Thank you
And
very
I
much.
I genuinely wish you the best of luck.
This was so much fun, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time, though.
All right, well,
What guys
thank you.
do. Thanks.
All right, we got 5 minutes.
Do the minutes from.
Yeah, let's do the minutes.
I just had a question. Item 2, at the, near the very bottom, he agreed to forward information gathered from research on the school to Eric. That means that we're gonna check the kids at the school to see who was in rental?
Rusty
Who was in
said
rental?
he had gathered, he'd done research at the
Yeah.
school, and he was gonna forward that research to Eric.
For rentals, so that.
To determine, to help us determine a broad picture of rental
Right,
potential.
so the kid, so we know if kids were living in rentals.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I thought that's what it was.
It's not,
Okay.
Sure.
well, it was not just kids living in it, that was the
Yeah, yeah.
subsection of rentals that
Yeah.
we could identify.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
was
we
just-
were looking to
Rentals in
identify
general.
rentals,
Yeah.
it wasn't looking for kids.
Right,
Okay,
right.
If you wanna look for kids, they're easy to find.
right. Right. So that sentence is part of the sentence before it.
Yeah, it's referring
Right, referring
to
that.
the sentence.
Yeah, okay.
Before.
I just wanna
Okay,
make sure.
you got more?
No.
That's it?
No, otherwise that was great.
Anybody else got stuff? All right, somebody else make a motion to approve the
I
minutes.
make a motion to approve.
I'll second it. All those in favor? All those opposed? It passes. We're scheduled for 8 o'clock. Why don't the LCDC people come on down? And we'll just give others a chance to get here.
I have no idea, maybe. I have all the summary statistics, the averages, I have one copy.
Why don't you make a copy?
Yeah, David, can you make, a dozen copies of that or something?
Sure.
Thank
I
you.
didn't know whether you wanted those or not. There they are.
Does?
I didn't know whether you wanted the proposals or not. But there they are.
Oh, I haven't loaded.
Okay.
Explanation of
Yeah, I tried.
unintended consequences. It's great.
That's interesting.
Here we are.
Things that it's not really right here.
Well, we got a couple of minutes. What's new on the road?
The borings are done and they're optimistic.
Like to hear
It's
that.
very doable.
Hmm.
A couple of areas that are, where they, went, 45 feet before they hit anything?
Any
Is
lead?
this the bypass?
Yeah,
Well, then,
so.
Side step.
the
It's
non-
not,
the
it's not
non-bypass.
called a side step?
Yeah.
Basically a river road issue, the river road.
Which one?
One of the
Many.
railroad issues.
So it's looking pretty good.
It is.
Great.
So they just pack that all with as much dynamite as they can get in there and they blow the whole thing up.
Right.
Ruin the whole face of the wall falls into
That's
the
where
river.
where the Trump
Three
Gym
camps
Summit is
go
gonna
with
be.
They did confirm that it was very shale ledge, so that they could peel it apart. And that was
Peel it apart.
that was one of the major.
Yeah, so they
purposes of that
wouldn't
work.
even need to frack it? That they could just
Well,
use heavy machinery, or they
But the
have to frack it?
fracking has a very good chance, if they need to frack
They
it,
can.
fracking can,
Yeah.
it will really work. So it's not the kind of ledge work that wouldn't work. So that was good.
That's
news.
great.
Yeah, that should
was the
save-
best news.
But that's also, you know, what Karen showed in that film yesterday, a similar ledge on a similar angle.
Right.
Let go and the whole thing just came crashing down, just obliterated the road.
So
So,
there was a shot.
and that's what she thinks about every time she drives over.
This news crew happened to be at this, I forget where, Alabama somewhere.
They happened
They happened to be
be there when they stuck a little stick of
No,
dynamite.
they just were
Oh,
sitting there
thank
trying to
you.
get ready for some film, and the film was running, and all of a sudden, this whole
whole
thing
thing
just
came
let go. And it was like, whoa. And that's essentially what we're looking at, the potential of in this situation. More so, I mean, and even, so we were most
It's
concerned
just
about
one
the
page.
soft soils that are in the valleys of the
Interesting.
ledge. So as the ledge goes like this, it's filled with soft soils. That's what's eroding right now. But the shale could also peel away and fall.
Yeah, she doesn't like it.
So,
So I guess I didn't get mine in time, but
Yeah, so you can see n equals 7 means we got 7 responses in here.
Out of 14?
That's what we got,
Really?
really.
okay.
Well, we knew him.
it's easy enough to have Adam.
It's amazing.
I'm sorry, my daughter.
Come on up, Mike.
My daughter fixed my
And,
phone.
I would wonder.
and if you two are, you're welcome to join us too. We just pull up chairs so we can be one big happy family. Yeah, I need a copy of this.
So who didn't submit their numbers? You submit your numbers?
Right?
Did you submit your numbers?
No, I did not.
My numbers are here, I did not submit them.
I'm running late.
I got,
Oh.
Rich, you're in the bottom line, but you're not in any of the,
Okay.
individual ones. I just pulled out a ranking based on what you had
Right,
said.
I mean, thank you for like figuring a way to code
Um,
what I was hoping.
Gotta wait till they come around, because I don't have,
You don't have a copy?
no, I just need an extra copy.
So it's the lowest number that's the best?
Low numbers are good.
It is interesting. All right, well, what are people's thoughts?
I would think we wanna talk, at least one or two in person.
I think at least two we want to talk to. For sure, I mean,
I concur that we should probably do two.
yeah.
So the top two?
Not the bottom two.
Well, I don't think we just say, oh, these are the numbers and these are the top two, I don't understand.
You wanna
that thought
talk
process.
it out?
Yeah,
Okay,
but I think we need to have a discussion.
Sure.
So,
okay. But I do think we wanna have at least two that we talk to, because you can write a good proposal and
Oh,
can have a
absolutely.
very different manner.
Absolutely. you know, and the numbers are close enough to where there's no clear-cut standout for the most part, so.
Well, there's a gap. I mean, these are significant figures.
Except for resilience, which surprises me.
Right, I mean, I guess I'd be interested in, I had not seen resilience as a strong candidate.
Because,
I think there, actually, let me not say why it was bad, because maybe I missed something. Are there people that thought that resilience was really good? And I'd like to
Resilience was
hear
my,
that.
my number one.
yeah, I
Yeah,
have
it was my number
resilience.
one.
Okay.
Yeah, I must say, I went into this really open-minded, and I even thought, you know, ADG would, after Stuart had talked to us, I thought, you know, he said some good things,
Yeah.
and I was, but when I read all these carefully, it just, to me, it seemed like resilience, I really like those two guys, you know, the two people, Russ Thibodeau and Steve Whitman, I guess it is. I think their backgrounds were, I like that, and it seemed like what they had been doing was more appropriate to Lyme.
That was exactly my thought pattern, was that when I looked at the examples that they talked about,
Yeah.
it would seem like it was very close to what we're looking for. I was also impressed with their credentials, and, you know, for me, I mean, the data part of it, that's the simple part, okay? And I think maybe all four of these groups could probably pull that off, but I'm more looking at what's their experience in doing a project similar to what we're asking them to do. And I thought they were clear-cut, closer than anyone else, in my opinion, so.
Yeah, I like their experience, like we talked about the towns, the other projects that they cited, the Enfield example they gave, I thought was well presented. Their proposal also read to me, had a flow that conveyed, good communication skills as well. Some of the other ones were, quite terse and, choppy in terms of flow, and I'm just thinking about, communicating these things to the town and getting town people involved in those things.
The nicest presentation,
Oh, was that theirs? I
They had
never
the
saw the
what?
binders.
the nicest presentation.
I think the resilience is the most qualified, and their presentation was more focused on Lyme. Before I read anything, I was biased toward Arndt because of what we had heard about them.
Yeah.
But I think their presentation was very narrow and focused in one piece. It didn't reach to the whole town. And I think that, as you've all heard me say before, I think it's really important that we get as much of the town involved in this, and I think resilience could accomplish that.
Yeah, I agree exactly with you on
No, I think that's pretty much
Okay.
covers all of my points.
So I'm persuaded.
Okay.
So how do we choose number two?
Well, I want to say something that really surprised me, and that's my number 4, was the Upper Valley Lake Centipede, because I thought the examples that they gave us, 2 from 2004, 1 from 2009, and the Orford one from 2015 were ridiculously, they weren't anywhere
I
near
think
close to.
we probably had the exact same order. I was really oh, no, I'm not sure. I might have had Arnett 4. But I was really surprised about RPC. I thought they would be at the top, and they just,
It was very unimpressive to me.
yeah, I agree.
I think they blew it in the presentation. They may be better than what they presented themselves.
Yeah, they definitely did not develop the
Yeah.
proposal very well. I mean, it was-
Yeah, which matters,
Three
that
paragraphs
they
and-
did.
Well, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Well, in the case that they don't have the same ability as some of the other people to communicate. Because it's a pretty simple path, really. I mean,
Right, right.
so.
Yeah, 'cause that's gonna be so important, the communication with the town. It's gonna be- That's a
So-
large part of it.
So it's clearly some folks like the RPC because
RPC was fourth.
no, low numbers are better, they're second in these rankings.
Oh, okay, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, so they're number two. All right, well,
Resilience,
I-
number two?
no,
RPC.
RPC, I agree with Dave, I was disappointed, but they're number two.
We
So,
all feel strongly about number one.
we gotta talk to them. I mean,
Why don't you bring him in and see if he measures up?
that's fine with me, but
Let go,
you
but I
you
mean-
just have them come in and if we don't like them, then we can have this number two come in?
Yeah.
Fine with me.
Let's see.
Would you like some comments from someone else who read?
Sure.
Yes,
I didn't rate them, but I have a background in some of this stuff. Yes, I live with Ross, but I'm actually a Vermont resident.
Oh, wow.
Those are the green, those are the
Let's
green-
put an end to this right now.
Those are the green license plates
No,
out
I mean,
there.
my goodness.
Actually, we're married, but I
too, so.
still.
You're married,
I should say I live with
that's
Ross.
even worse.
We're married, but
It's actually illegal because you have
6
months to get your New Hampshire
Yes,
license
that's what
plate,
you do.
otherwise you're driven out of town.
But I've written a bunch of proposals and read a
Sure,
bunch
well,
of
and
proposals.
of course, go ahead.
And I didn't rank them, but I just have a few things. I actually would have rated the regional planning in Kennedy higher, but just a few things that when you're talking to these folks, the ones you bring
Sure.
in. One thing that the Kennedy group mentioned that some of the others didn't, and something you might want to bring into the conversation, as you're talking about options for the future, the issue of when you hit a point that's gonna be a major cost,
Yeah.
like water or sewer
Of course.
facilities. That was something Kennedy really focused on,
Yes.
and the others didn't touch on very much.
Kennedy was my number two.
Number two, too.
Yeah,
Um,
we're all the same.
I think we're all quite aware of these sorts of things.
Regional planning folks and Kennedy both used some interesting new tools. In the case of the regional planning, they used community viz for build-out analysis. In the case of Kennedy, they used keypad polling, which if you wanna know anything about it, it's pretty cool. It involves people with doing instantaneous voting using
Well,
keypads.
I think these are some of the things we're gonna ask them about.
Sure.
We can pick from the nice things we liked in the other.
Exactly.
Beta testing for community.
Okay.
And the only thing about resilience,
Oh, sure.
the only negative that struck me about resilience, and I would agree with the things that have been said, where they put the money in terms of their time. There was a lot of envisioning, there was also a lot on the report, but actually it was only, one of the things that struck me was 100 hours of work as compared to some of the others. Regional planning was like
100
200
hours of work.
Actual
total work.
consulting, whereas regional planning had 240 and the others were like 150 or 114. So
Okay,
just,
those are
that's
good
something
points.
to bear in mind.
Who had the
when they're
240?
Regional
Regional
planning, and of
planning.
course, they're a public agency, so their billing rates are lower.
Yeah, probably. Okay, that's a good point. So we can ask them about that.
Also, resilience, when you're interviewing them, you might ask them more about their visioning process,
Okay,
because they were less specific about the visioning process, how they would do it than the others.
Excuse me, I'm gonna make a call.
sure. Let's get him on board.
Who is this we're calling?
This is Nils.
Nils.
Chairman. Okay.
There's this British comedian who does a thing called Little Man in a Box, where he can actually use his voice to sound like he's speaking from inside a box.
Nils is at the tavern.
Yeah, that's right.
Couldn't get it on.
There's no cell service there. so.
Yeah. Okay, we tried.
Oh, not there. All right, so, are you have more?
I'm done, they're
Yeah, those are
points
great,
of
those
things to
are
think
really
about when
great
you're-
points, and thank you for, obviously, a very intelligent reading of it. And that really helps us, so thank you.
And if you wanna be at the meeting.
Yeah.
When we,
Yes.
just to make sure we get.
Yeah,
get
no, I mean,
everything.
actually, so that you can remind us if we've forgotten any, no, seriously. I am serious. All right, so do we feel like we just wanna have resilience come and we'll take it from there? All right, so who's gonna contact resilience?
I'll do it,
Okay,
happy to.
and when do we, well, you'll work that out with them, when's the best time?
Yeah,
Okay.
pick a time, probably tell them.
I mean, it would be nice if it's either at, one of our meetings or one of the committee's meetings. Or if that doesn't work out, we'll have extra meetings.
Okay. Okay.
Once if you can get a few dates, then we can go back and forth.
You don't have work, Sir Red Monkey?
No, I do not.
Okay, I'll figure it out.
Just Survey Monkey or Doodle, I mean,
Yeah,
Well, you know how it works.
Right.
So you,
I'll
so
call them
you
and
can,
see. And
you can work
it's
with
gonna
Rich
be
to do it
on-
via,
What do we use the Survey Monkey for?
14 people to try
to get us all out on the same date.
It's, and we're giving in June, so it's gonna be tough, so. Let me talk with them
Okay,
and see, they're from Plymouth, so they
shouldn't be too bad.
But for the majority of people here, an evening time frame is correct. I mean, I think that's what you're shooting for, too.
It's only an hour for them to get home, so it's not like
Okay.
somebody coming from.
So either a Wednesday or a Thursday night, does that work for most people?
It does,
Better than the other nights.
Vicky has problems on Wednesday.
But I think the third Wednesday of the month is when she has,
Well, we don't wanna wait 3 weeks.
Yeah,
4
I mean,
weeks.
if it ends up being on a Thursday, great, if it's Wednesday, we'll have to work
I
around
think
it.
the third Wednesday is when she can't come.
when she can, she works, I think, the second
She
and
can.
fourth
So
Wednesday.
thank
are
you
her-
for coming,
thank you.
and please do come back. We'll notify you when,
All right.
Thanks.
I'll pick them up on my way down.
Just please monitoring device.
all right, so we're set. I mean, that went a
Fundraiser.
lot quicker than I thought.
Well, it was, you sit down, you read before it. And it's interesting, everybody sort of agreed.
A lot of people agree, yeah.
So it's sort of obvious.
All right, well, thanks.
Motion to adjourn?
Well, no, we,
I
wish.
Oh dear.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, and you have to stay to film.
Well, I guess so.
Um,
I tried.
So
I
thank
tried,
you,
guys.
thank you for coming and thank you for your work.
You can get LiDAR for all of
really
Grants County
surprised
off
how
of the Granite
people-
website.
It's the grand, okay.
Yep.
I was.
There's it.
Yeah, Granite,
Well,
And
I gotta find some processing software for it so I can get contours out of it, but
I'm trying to get all those stone walls, paint house going over.
Yeah, whatever.
it didn't seem controversial.
No.
I did. Okay. And I was gonna, I can send you the spreadsheet for Lyme, but I can't send you, I don't think I can send you the one for New Hampshire. First of all, it shut my system down, so big. Yeah. I'm in the Forest Society. That's how I,
the basic
much of the data.
zoning ordinances,
I
master
don't
plan,
do
do
it. They know what's going on.
I can squeeze another 2 iPads out of this for you.
I need to get with you sometime to do the data stuff.
Yep.
What's a good time other than?
Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, except for Thursdays, which are 1 to 6.
big broad spectrum.
I can't do it tomorrow, I got Cape Crab all day.
And tomorrow's not gonna be a good day, I'm pretty much in the office by myself, so.
Then next week.
And next week.
So Eric, you're all set, you don't need help with this?
Yeah, if you want help,
We
I'll,
appreciate you doing this.
no, if you want help, I will
No, I
help.
mean, it's, I may ask for help later.
Okay,
But for just getting the data in working order, it's probably easier.
right, by yourself.
Yeah,
Well, let us know.
I will, yeah.
All right. All right, so we are moving along here. So that's the next item was the master plan housing chapter. So we're waiting for the data and Vicky's stuff.
I'm just for the, we had said June sixth was the deadline.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's,
We have this on each thing. This isn't here to give Eric a hard
okay,
time.
I think it's unlikely that I will be finished with the.
Well, it's actually June 14th, so you still got
Okay.
8 more days.
So that.
Look, if you don't have it done by the 14th, it's okay,
Thank you, John.
okay?
I know you're not gonna scold me.
I'm not gonna scold.
You might scold me, but you can't send me to bed early.
No, I cannot send you to bed
You
early.
cannot take away.
I
my
have no
toys.
power over you, Eric.
You will not get ice
Are you
cream.
gonna take away my iPad and my screen
Well, if we
time?
can help.
That is a possibility, yeah. If you need help, if you find that it's not going quickly, ask us and I'll help, you'll help.
My suspicion is once it goes, it will go
Okay.
relatively quickly. The problem is going to be getting it to,
Can you hire?
Getting it to what?
getting
Maybe John and I should take the kids for like.
me and
No,
David to actually
no,
get
that I
together
will not
and
do.
crank the data out and then
Yeah.
getting the ball rolling is gonna be the hard part.
Getting the data, after that, we're gonna have to work on the presentation, basically the write-up, but that's
Roughly, you want the same information that was in.
same information but updated. And actually, I think it would be nice to include the older information with that newer information, so that we have, we can actually plot what's happening.
You don't take the kids just one day off.
No, I will not take the kids any
You have to
day.
drive them to school.
I will not drive them to school.
It's gonna be,
That's why things didn't work out between you and me originally.
it's gonna be play date at John's house.
All right, so, and then the senior
Nice
housing,
yard playing.
what? The senior housing, the RPC is going ahead.
I just got the contract today. I will give it to the select board to
Okay.
sign next week. So,
And
it'll come out of my budget to find places
And
to.
For now.
how long did they say their work would take? Do you recall?
I don't recall.
Okay.
I didn't grab the photo.
Okay, you can tell me another time. All right, so that's,
It is in their proposal and
okay. All right, so we're up to, if anybody has any new business. Well, people really wanna go home tonight, huh? Well, you've only been at it, what, this is, no, we gotta keep Rusty here, a little one.
Rusty,
No,
you're
all right.
already numb, so it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
so you're not feeling any pain as it is.
I'll tell you,
All right, well, we can shut down.
Terry will be the messenger, I'll tell you that.
We can shut down, and is there any new business?
I have no new
New
business.
business? I don't see,
No.
I don't see anybody feeling, and you wanna go home, I'm sure. All right, so I'd like to make a motion to, oh. Oh, I want you, please, just think twice before you start.
I'm not sure if it's appropriate, but,
That's even worse.
no, we were talking about Dow's, and I was wondering whether we should just ask Rusty as a selectman about whether, and a planning board member, whether he thinks
Okay,
we need to do, because they're putting in a 40,
Patio.
well, they're putting in a 40 car parking area.
well, you heard that from where?
I was gonna say, first time about it, but.
Well,
Yeah, that's- I hadn't heard
I
anything.
know, I should, John Maloney's doing it, and his wife,
But
She
you're,
told me
you're
that-
sure about this?
she told me that, that's what she told me, anyway.
Well, why don't we wait
Well, don't they
until?
know? I mean, they know they have to come.
Yeah,
I've been clear on,
Well, anyway, I guess I'm just bringing it up, so in case you, if you're by there, just
Yeah.
take a look and see.
if we start seeing a lot of
Because
dump trucks
supposedly
going
he's been
there.
working there for 3 or 4 days.
I'm sure that they're not gonna,
On a new parking area?
That's what she told me.
I didn't
And
see.
Sue does the ground, does the
They're
garden
buried.
there
The
too.
only thing they've been working there is they buried some tank.
Voicemail.
Yeah, they're putting in new propane tanks.
Okay. Well,
Maybe he
that's
hasn't
nice.
started on the
They
lot.
put them in the underground instead of out in, it
Right.
looks nice.
Right,
I'm
well, maybe
glad
he
they
hasn't
did that.
started on the parking lot yet. Maybe they're doing the tanks first. and
Yeah, I
then start on
parked
the
there, I don't know, last week, so I didn't see any new construction.
Well,
or
I mean, anyway, that's
Oh,
what
yeah.
Sue told me, so just keep it in mind.
anything. Okay, yeah.
I'm sure that they'll, if they're doing anything, they'll do the right thing.
Yeah, I've talked to, got my mind drawn blank now on her name,
Tammy.
Tammy, thank you, about the patio. And I've made it exceedingly clear that the patio
Yeah.
has to go through site plan review because they wanna do meal service out there.
That's the only thing I've heard, that
Yeah.
she knows, she definitely
yeah.
knows about that, so.
Yeah, so,
Yeah,
But for them
And
to bring it
maybe-
to us until I see it coming to us, we
Yeah.
don't.
yeah, I've not seen any
Rumor.
dump trucks back there putting in, I saw the propane tanks and, I mean, maybe those should have gone to site plan review, but, I mean, there's, as far as I'm concerned, if they're replacing existing,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna get too bugged about.
well, just keep it in mind, because Sue was pretty definite about, you know. she
So
told
what-
me that-
Just to that issue, if it could, should have, or could have, would have come to a site plan review, what were we gonna review? Like
Well,
where to put it?
that's exactly the,
Okay,
and
that's why I didn't.
but I thought
He used his
isn't that,
judgment.
isn't that somewhat determined by the company?
Well, the plan, yeah, it is, the company and then the planning board has the ultimate authority on whether it should go or not. But,
But not placement necessarily, or.
well, the placement would be, the idea being that, all the abutters are notified, and if they're placing tanks right up against the property line, if they were up against the store, it would also give Mike Mundy a chance to say, hey, whoa, I don't like the idea of those tanks being right there, and so,
Yeah, I mean, when Mike came in, one of the things he talked about was that there's an actual, which I knew nothing about, there's an actual determined space between buildings that's a minimum optimum number. So, obviously different if there's a propane tank there too. So that would be something that potentially would be a safety issue that we're responsible for. But on a practical matter, I mean, we don't wanna be saying to somebody, you can't have a propane tank there because, the most we might say is, screen it.
These are buried.
Oh, if you're buried.
Versus the
it-
screen
that's-
ones.
That's considered screening.
Well, yeah, right.
So, having addressed that, let me try this again. And
Think of something.
tonight is the moment of the last moment, last moment, that we had Rusty, we had you, and we had you with last moment things. So it's your turn when I say, I'd like to make a motion to go home. Is there anybody who has anything to say, or will you forever please hold your peace? We are going home. Thank you, great job.
where you go, you are saying
So I didn't
numbers
make
that,
it to.
because I know Dave Russ is gonna ask.
Oh, good.
79A.
A lot of people are.
Your wife won?
Yeah.